So you read the script. What was your initial thoughts when you first read it?
So I read the script, and at first I was like, this is a badass movie, you know? And then I realized what the topic was about. And high school was only a couple years ago for me. I knew a specific someone that took her life because of bullying. So at that point, I realized that this movie, I had to be a part of it for a much bigger reason than it's a cool character, it's a cool movie. It's for her, it's for her family, it's for pretty much the biggest thing is it's for the community that's not talked about because it's such a sensitive topic, you know, bullying and cutting, and if it pushes to the extreme of taking your own life, it's something that people are, I don't know if they're afraid to talk about it, but it's so sensitive that they won't come out to their own parents or their friends. So we hope with this film it helps people instead of glorifying it or anything like that. We want to know that, like, we know about you guys. You know, I mean, Adam's had experiences with people in high school as well. So we know it's out there. Everyone knows it's out there, you know, but people don't really want to talk about it.
It seems to be like a subject of, it's almost like it's shameful.
Yeah.
You know, so I would imagine then for you as actors, you're dealing with that kind of psychology, that what is it that makes people tick that way as a perpetrator and also the victim.
Yeah, so I played the victim. I didn't experience that in high school, you know. I had a good group of friends, never bullied anyone, never got picked on. So I definitely had to click into that psychosis of, like, why, you know, why do people like this get picked on? Why specifically? Right now it seems like if you listen to different kind of music, he listens to death metal. If you look a little bit different, he had dark hair, pale, which I knew I had to do because he couldn't be like a tan, physically fit dude, you know? So I dyed my hair black, started smoking cigarettes. I didn't see the sun for like 2 months.
Impossible in LA.
I know, man. I had one of those big ass, like, dojo hats and like an umbrella on set all the time. So, but that definitely helped me tap into the psychosis because I physically was able to feel why. So the psychology part of it was kind of, you know, it definitely helped a lot. Yeah.
And working with a director who's gone to so much trouble as well to work with actors, was that a joy?
Yeah. The best part about him is that he would not shut us down creatively once. You know, he was all for that this is a collabo. You know, he's like, what do you think about the scene? This is what I think about the scene. Let's meet halfway, you know? And I love that he was down for me to do everything physically on my own. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the burning scene where I'm running, that's the only thing that I did not do myself. So I like to do everything on my own, and he was so down for it. When the producer were like, hold on, he could totally get hurt. I was like, let me just try it, you know? So he was open. He was open to just everything pretty much, you know? And I think it shows because when you mesh with the director, I mean, of course, you know, it becomes a masterpiece.
So what was it that inspired you about this story?
Well, okay, I wanted to do a movie that was a slasher film, like Nightmare on Elm Street, but I wanted to do it in a way that felt like an independent drama, so that it was really about characters and emotions first, before it was about that. It was like, and I hadn't seen exactly that kind of film before. It was like, what if you took a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street and you made all of the characters very real, and you made their emotional relationship to each other very intense and quite bleak and quite violent in sort of an emotional way. That was the original idea, and I brought it to my co-writer and said, how can we do a kind of literary emotional slasher film? And he suggested we make it about bullying, high school bullying, because these kind of films, they're all the decades, are always about something sort of topical, like an anxiety in society, right? And the idea of high school bullying opens up this sort of world about revenge and violence and emotional violence, and that was the backdrop to create this slasher idea.
And it's also, I would think as well, it's a very current topic as well, so again it makes this very relatable to people, doesn't it?
That's right. It has to be about something that takes place in this exact moment, because what you want to do is create a monster that embodies the anxiety of the second, right? The things that we're worried about right now. And I think it's not just high school students that have to worry about bullying. It's sort of all of us have to worry about, like, what does this mean for society, and like, why are people so horrible to one another, and how can we sort of distill that into something literally quite cutting.
And your background is in comic books, so am I correct in saying that?
I wrote a graphic novel called Ballistic that's come out, and at the same time I was doing a lot of music videos and commercial work and that kind of thing, but this is my first film.
Because I was going to ask if you actually, when you're planning your shots, are you thinking in pictures?
Well, yeah, very, very much so. My cinematographer would often talk about how is this image like a graphic novel? How is this sort of comic book? The interesting thing about it is the way we designed the movie. It begins very free form and handheld and very realistic, and as it goes forward, it becomes more and more graphical and more symmetrical and more planned. So it sort of has this visual evolution from one side to the other side.
And for you, working with living, breathing people, what's that experience like for you, seeing your actors bring your work to life, basically?
Working with actors is the best part of the job. I think that for me, I do something like this because I want to make connections to people, right? And ultimately the audience, but starting with connections with the actors. I was actually quite concerned when we knew we were going to do this movie, and I had mostly worked only visually before. I was very concerned that the performances and the actors, that I was going to do a good job with them. So I took acting classes, and I did workshops at a studio that helps directors work with actors. And I started taking little scenes from the movie, working with actors, practicing directing, and then even when I was auditioning the movie, using every individual audition as an opportunity for me to practice directing it, so that by the time we were ready to shoot it, I knew how to share with the actors from myself, my own stories, my own emotional relationship to what we were doing, which I think helped them quite a bit, and I felt very closely bonded to all of the kids that were in the movie.